How was the ride?
Good.
Was it rough?
Yeah.
You think the shocks needed some adjusting, or how was it?
Fun.
Okay, fun.
Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind Show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below and hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's edition of the Cup Rewind, we're looking back at today's 49th annual Consumers Energy 400. 200 laps, 400 miles around the 2-mile Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. Had a few incidents on the day today, so let's get right into the highlights. 8 cautions for 37 laps. 3 of those coming in stage number 1. First one at lap 10 for Erik Jones. He spun off of turn number 4, clipped the grass ever so slightly on the front stretch. That brought out the caution for the 20 car. Second one came a few laps later, lap 17, as the 24 of William Byron and the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. got tangled up in turn number 2. And the final caution for stage number 1 was at lap 25. It was a competition caution for the rain last night, just to make sure tire wear and everything is consistent and not too bad, which is usual if there has been rain the night before. That's a pretty normal thing. Stage 1 concluded at lap 60. Kevin Harvick takes the stage 1 victory. Stage 2, we had, 2 cautions in stage number 2. The first one coming at lap 76 for Ryan Newman spinning in turn number 2. The other one at lap 85 for Erik Jones spinning again. Not a good day for Erik Jones. He spun in turn number 2 this time after contact with Ryan Blaney. Stage 2 ended at lap 120. Again, Kevin Harvick takes the stage victory and another playoff point. 1 caution in stage number 3, and that was for a rather odd incident. Ty Dillon at lap 134 hit on the backstretch what looked to be a battery. Not sure where that came from. Nobody's really fessed up to whose car that came out of, so nobody really knows where it came from. But Ty Dillon runs it over. Basically drops the oil cooler out of the car, and as you'll see here, you see the aftermath of it as he slides into the turn 3 wall. And obviously the end of the day for Ty Dillon. Unfortunately, I'm sure not the way he wanted his day to end. So that is your cautions on the day. Lap leaders on the day, Kevin Harvick far and above, leading the most laps on the day, over half of the race, 108 of the 200 laps. 25 laps went to Martin Truex Jr., 22 went to Kyle Busch. Shocking, the big 3 were the top 3 in laps led in this race. 13 laps apiece went to Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson. 12 laps went to Ryan Newman, who did have a fairly fast car in this race. 5 laps went to Austin Dillon, who also had a fast car in this race. RCR really showed some muscle today. And 1 lap apiece went to Joey Logano and Jamie McMurray. Alright, so let's get into your results, and Kevin Harvick takes win number 7 on the season. Just absolutely incredible. Sweeps the day, winning both stages and winning the race. Perfect points day for him, 60 points on the day after both stage wins and the race win. Just an absolutely dominant day for Kevin Harvick. I don't think anybody was going to touch him in this race. He was that good in this race. It's how we've seen him in most of those 7 victories this season. It's just absolutely incredible to watch basically the big 3 run this year, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. Just when one of them is hot, and usually it's only one of them per race, it's just nobody is going to touch them in that race. Brad Keselowski came home with a strong second-place finish after having a good car on the day. I'm not sure it was a second-place car most of the day as he finished 9th in both stages, but does come home with a very strong second-place finish after starting 18th today. Kyle Busch had a strong car. I'm not sure he really had anything for Kevin Harvick, but did have a fairly fast car, third on the day for Kyle Busch. Austin Dillon still manages a fourth-place finish even after having a vibration for the last couple of laps. He wasn't sure whether it was a flat tire or a loose tire, but all four tires looked to be up when he hit pit road at the end of the race, so I'm guessing it was a loose tire. I've not seen anything to confirm that, but I'm guessing that's what it was since all four tires seemed to be up at the end of the race. Ryan Blaney comes home with a strong top 5 finish in 5th. Rest of your top 10 were Kurt Busch, Eric Almirola, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, last week's winner from Watkins Glen, and Joey Logano. Strong outing for Ford this week, just outside the Motor City, as they take 6 of the top 10 spots in this race, including the win. 11th through 20th, we see a few guys down here. Daniel Suarez, namely, who is outside the playoff picture, trying to fight his way back in there, trying to pick up a victory. Had a strong car, was up as high as 3rd at one point in this race after starting in the rear in 40th after having some qualifying issues. Had some speed in the car. Unfortunately, 11th was all he could get at the end of this race. The June Michigan winner, Clint Boyer, comes home in the 12th position. Eric Jones, after his 2 spins on the day, still manages a 13th place finish. Martin Truex, we saw his issues there in the middle portions of the race, 14th for MTJ. And he even joked after the race that the way this season has gone, he either finishes top 5 or he finishes 14th. He finished 14th today. Ryan Newman, after his issues, even with a strong car, comes home in the 15th position. Kyle Larson, pretty well off all day, came home in the 17th position. Never really saw the usual speed we tend to see out of him at Michigan. A little surprising out of that 42 car today. And then we see Ricky Stenhouse, Alex Bowman, the two guys really battling for that cutoff line at the bottom of the playoffs. No ground gained or lost there this week as Ricky Stenhouse finishes a spot above Alex Bowman, but Bowman finished 10th in stage number 1, so he gained an extra stage point from that, so they both got 19 points for this race. So, as we'll see when we get to the playoff grid, the cutoff line has not changed at all in terms of the difference between these two. 21st through 30th, Bubba Wallace down here in the 23rd position. Jimmy Johnson, I'm not really sure what happened to him at the end of the race. Just ends up 2 laps down in the 28th position. 31st through 40th, we see a couple guys down here. Trevor Bayne had engine issues late in the race, 11 laps down in 34th. William Byron, we saw his problems, was able to get the car repaired after that accident with Martin Truex, but ends up 13 laps down in the 36th position. Then Ty Dillon, obviously, we saw his issues. 38th was where he would land on the day. All right, so that is your results for the Consumers Energy 400. Now we'll head over to the Media Center. We saw at the beginning here what Keelan thought of the end of the race, and now we'll head over to the Media Center and we'll see what Kevin and the other top finishers had to say after this one.
I was in front of him for like 5 laps. Okay. Jesus, Bob.
So for those 5 laps, it was a good day?
Yeah, I actually drove away from him for a couple laps there before that caution came out. I don't know how many laps we led or when we were in front of the 4, but it definitely seemed like whoever got out front just could kind of take off, and if you were the fastest car like the 4 was, there was nobody that was going to be able to come close to you and do anything with you. You know, there were some moments there. That last run, once it got strung out, I mean, everybody was eight lengths apart, 8 lengths apart, 8 lengths apart, 8 lengths apart, and you know, you couldn't get any closer than that. You were just at an air deficit from being able to get air on your car from the car in front of you and just lacking grip, so you just weren't able to make up time. But yeah, I mean, it's Michigan. Take that with a grain of salt for us. This isn't our best place, so we don't necessarily think we're going to come here and be a dominant force, and coming out of here with a 3rd is fine for us. We can take solace in that, I guess, and go on into next week.
Yeah, Rob, you know, the last few weeks we've had some pretty big struggles. You know, finishing out races with breakdowns and letdowns and all the above. So it's nice to just be able to have a clean race. We're mostly clean. We did have one loose wheel but mostly clean race, and to be able to kind of get the finish we deserve. That's important. It's important to get what you have out of your car, and although we might not have race-winning speed, you still need to execute. So with that in mind, that's good for everybody's morale at Team Penske and on the 2 team as well. But of course, we want to break through and win as well. And you know, kind of like you indicated, we're not where we need to be to just win on pure speed against those guys week in and week out. So you know, we gotta find it. You know, as a team, we have to find that little bit of performance. It's not a lot. It's just enough to keep us out of victory lane. It's enough for us to run up front like we did today, finish up front when we do everything right, but not enough to win. So we know it's possible, and it's up to us to make it happen.
Keelan, how awesome is it to share this experience with your father and kind of see what it's like to have him have his best year yet?
It was fun to enjoy that moment.
Yeah, you know, I think as you look at the year, you got to remember, you know, I spent a lot of years not having the most fun and not having the most success, and you know, over the past 5 years, we've been able to win a lot of races and do a lot of things, you know, on the racetrack and winning races and championship. You know, so it's been you know, it's been an incredible amount of stuff and wins packed into almost 5 years now. So, you know, for me, I'm just enjoying every moment because you never know when it's going to go the other way. And right now, our guys are just doing a great job, and I'm enjoying everything. So it was pretty cool today. We got to go celebrate together. Yeah, he's been with me for the last 3 weeks, so we've had a big time. So it's pretty cool to look over there on your victory lap and see your 6-year-old in the passenger seat and being able to enjoy it with you. So that was definitely way up there on the bucket list of things that you didn't expect. So that's pretty neat.
And we'll take a look at your playoff grid before wrapping up here tonight. And as we'll see on here, the only position changes this week, obviously Kevin Harvick moving back to the top now with his 7 wins and 40 playoff points. Just absolutely incredible numbers here out of the big 3. 40 playoff points for Kevin Harvick, 35 for Kyle Busch, 27 for Martin Truex. And Kyle Busch looks like he is well on his way to the regular season points championship, because overall in the actual point standings, he has a 62-point lead over Harvick. That would award him another 15 playoff points when we get to the playoff points if he is able to hold on to that. So just absolutely incredible playoff point numbers out of these 3. But I say that, and I'm going to make a bold prediction right now and say that none of the big 3 will win the 2018 championship. Yes, I said it. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. None of those 3 will win this year's championship. Now, I say that because these 3 have been so dominant of late throughout the entire season. I think they can keep it up because they've kept it up through this entire stretch. But I have a feeling someone, I don't know who, maybe it's multiple someones, is holding a little something back here. They don't want to show all their cards just yet. Maybe that's Clint Boyer, who's sitting here with 2 wins. Maybe it's Chase Elliott. Maybe it's Joey Logano. Maybe it's one of these guys that doesn't have a win yet but is securely in the playoffs. Maybe it's Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson. We know if Kyle Larson makes it to Homestead, he is really good at Homestead. So there's some of these guys that I feel like they're holding something back. And some of these guys aren't as far behind the big 3 as we're being led to believe. That being said, one of the big 3 could very well win the championship, but I'm saying right now, I'm making the bold prediction that neither Harvick, Busch, or Truex will win this year's championship. Now, we're going to revisit this at the end of the season if this actually happens. But that's my bold prediction for today. None of those 3 will win the championship. Only other position change on the playoff grid this week being Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson kind of hopscotching here around Denny Hamlin. Blaney moves 13th to 11th, Larson 11th to 13th. All 3 of those guys, Blaney, Hamlin, Larson, though, as we can see, within 6 points of each other. So that's a very close battle there for 11th. And as we talked about in the race results, no change at the cutoff line. Still a 62-point difference between Alex Bowman and Ricky Stenhouse because of Bowman's 1 stage point he got in stage number 1. So no changes there whatsoever. Still 62 points. And I still say with 3 races left until the playoffs, any of these guys outside the playoffs, they've got to win a race. Which they can win a race. Paul Menard has been streaky, but he has shown times of being fast enough to win a race. Daniel Suarez has shown speed quick enough to win a race at different points. Ryan Newman had enough speed today that he could have won that race given the right circumstances. These guys can win races. It's just a matter of can they put it together and actually get the race victory to get themselves in the playoffs. Because I think at this point, all of these guys need a win. Alex Bowman is not going to have a bad enough race in the next 3 races, I don't think, to put these guys back into contention to point their way in. I just don't see it happening. So we will see how that works out going forward. But that is your playoff grid for tonight, and I think that will do it for tonight's Cup Rewind show. If you missed them, we have rewind shows up for both the trucks from Michigan yesterday and Xfinity from Mid-Ohio yesterday. Those will be linked down below in the description if you missed them. And then pole position coming up as usual tomorrow night, 8 p.m. recapping all 3 of these races this weekend. No IndyCar, no F1, no ARCA this weekend. So none of that. But next weekend, there's going to be a lot more going on. ARCA is back on the dirt in Springfield, Illinois at the Illinois State Fairgrounds. IndyCar is back next week at Pocono. We've got all kinds of stuff going on next weekend, and we plan on being at the ARCA race at Springfield, so we will have live coverage for you from there, talking to different drivers, getting their perspective on the day, seeing how they're feeling about the dirt race, that kind of thing. So you will want to keep an eye on RNN next weekend. Lots of big things happening there. So if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss any of that going forward, especially next weekend and through the next couple months as we get back into the swing of things with being live at races, covering stuff, that sort of thing. And if you haven't done it already, hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. So with that, this has been the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.